we're doing here today is stocking the Big Detroit Lake with one-year-old sturgeon. This is the third year of a stocking program that began in 1997. We stocked in 97 and 98, and on those 2 years we stocked sub-adult fish that were anywhere from 4 to 10 pounds and about 4 to 10 years old. This is an effort to restore sturgeon to the Red River Basin. They used to exist here, they no longer exist, primarily because of the dams that are located in the system that basically cut sturgeon off from necessary spawning and rearing habitat. These fish came from the hatchery just off the Rainy River from the First Nations hatchery at, I think it's Emo, Ontario. And they were spawned, they originated from eggs from wild fish in the Rainy River, hatched in the hatchery and raised to one-year-old size. We're also going to be getting some eggs from them, from wild fish from this year. And we'll take and hatch those eggs out in our hatchery, and we'll stock the fry in several area rivers. We put 350 fish in the Buffalo River, 350 fish in the Ottertail River, about 2,100 or so in Ottertail Lake. We're really excited to have these fish going in. We've got about 751 fish we're putting in today. They're about 12 to 16 inches long, and again, they're about one year old. About 20 years from now, some of the females will be mature. They'll run in the 40 to 50 inch range at that age. And then they'll spawn about every 4 to 6 years. The males will mature at age 16. They'll be slightly smaller than the females in the upper 30 and 40 inch range. But these fish have a potential to grow real old and real large. The biggest specimens that we've seen in the Red River Basin run in the neighborhood of 400 pounds and are probably a couple hundred years old. The Historical Museum has photos of fish in the 100 to 175 pound range. Sturgeon are remarkably docile fish. We dove with them in the Little Fork River, and as we were down there on the bottom of the river with these fish, the visibility was really poor. You couldn't see but maybe 6 inches in front of your mask, and you'd bump up against these large things that felt like logs, and they were sturgeon. And you'd turn on your light, and you could swim right over to them, and you really couldn't see them till you were about a foot away, and then they'd kind of startle you with their size, because they're just huge. But you could swim up to them, put your arm around them, and basically pet them like you could a dog or a cat, and they seem to enjoy it almost. And incredibly docile. There's absolutely nothing to fear, for people to fear about sturgeon. There's just nothing. They just look scary to some people. They look pretty cool to me. Okay, what we have here is a fish transport truck, and we've got oxygen bubbling up in the tanks right now, and inside the tanks we've got about 3,200 lake sturgeon. These are called scoots, and they're fairly sharp when they're young. When they grow up or mature, they'll actually grow over the top of those bony structures, and they'll be fairly smooth, just a nice leathery feel. But they are a little sharp when they're young. And as Dennis was describing, the mature fish, or the hatchery fish, tend to be a little bit less sharp than the wild ones. So this is a yearling sturgeon, fairly tough. They've got a subterminal mouth that extends quite a ways out. Especially when they're adults. The mouth extends out several inches, and that allows them to feed on the bottom. All sorts of crustaceans, invertebrates, crayfish, whatever they can get a hold of. Now the water's going to be a little bit cold for them because it's about 7 degrees colder than the water in the hatchery. And so they're going to have to adjust to it a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of a shock to them at first, but I think they'll do just fine. They're fairly hardy fish. When the water's cool and cold, I think they'll seek out deeper water. The water temperatures are a little more stable in deeper water. And when it's cold, it's actually warmer in the depths. When the water starts to warm, you should be able to see some of them up in shallow, warmer water feeding. So as they grow bigger, there's going to be some interesting sightings on big Detroit as they become, you know, sub-adults in that 10 to 20 pound range. They'll start getting people's attention when they do accidentally catch them, and they will. They'll occasionally catch them down the road, but it'll be a few years yet before these are really caught. In 97 and 98, we tagged all of the fish that went in, all of the sub-adult fish, with yellow tags that were basically wired to their fins on their back. And many of those fish, about 25% of those fish, made their way down into the Red River and as far as Lake Winnipeg. However, none of the fish that we stocked in Big Detroit Lake were recovered in downstream tag returns. So we think most of those fish are still in Big Detroit Lake. And there was only about 75 fish stocked in Big Detroit. The rest of them went in the otter tail during those 2 years. But we think most of those original 75 fish are still in the lake. We've got every reason to believe that most of them are. Hopefully we can get a population reestablished. Possibly down the road we'll even be able to see a sturgeon angling season when the population builds to the point where it can sustain an angling season. Right now there's very few sturgeon angling seasons available in Minnesota. One is up on the Rainy River, the St. Croix River, and the Kettle River in Minnesota are open. We hope some year to see a strong, viable, healthy population of sturgeon in our lakes and rivers.
We're looking for muskies to do an assessment on how well they're growing and if we're getting any natural reproduction and how our stocking program is working for the muskies. So we'll be looking at a few nets. We've got 12 nets out on Detroit and Deadshot Bay and Little Detroit. The nets have a 5x6 frame and about a 5-foot hoop on it with a 100-foot lead, so they're kind of big and awkward. We'll go try one now. We run it for 10 days. I think we've had 38 fish so far.
Yeah, we got one in here.
See the large shadow in there. I don't know if you can.
Why do you catch them like this?
They're spawning right now, so this is one of the times that they're coming up into the shallows, and so we can get a chance to net them. And we're looking at trying to get an idea how they're growing and if we're getting any natural reproduction. We take a scale off them to get an idea of what year class they are. And a length and a weight. We're going to put him in a cradle here to keep him from flopping around too much, and he'll be taking a length and a weight and a scale sample, and they'll be sexing the fish, and that'll give us some information on how well they're growing.
It's 6,600.
We didn't find any muskies in that one. In the net, you'll see a lot of other fish. We've seen a lot of walleyes, crappies, and bluegills that incidentally get caught at the same time. We usually just clean those out of the net. Nice walleye in there. Two in this one.
3 in yesterday.
It's a dandy.